The story begins with a guy named Barbie, who's new in town. He's out in the woods doing the awful job of burying a dead man. Barbie has a fresh cut on his forehead, which hints that he got into a violent fight with the guy he's burying, but we don't know why he killed him yet. A little later, Barbie tries to drive out of the town of Chester's Mill. He has a tense run-in with the sheriff's car that really shakes him up. Because he's distracted, he doesn't see some cows wander onto the road. He has to swerve to avoid them and ends up crashing his car in a field. He gets out of the car, totally okay, right before the ground starts shaking from a huge tremor. The shaking stops suddenly, and it feels like something massive and invisible just dropped out of the sky. Then, everything goes dead silent. The first sign that something is seriously wrong is a cow that has been sliced perfectly in half. When Barbie investigates, he realizes he's standing in front of an invisible, solid wall. It's so sharp that it also cut right through houses that were in its path. A local teenager named Joe comes over to see if Barbie is okay, and they both stare in shock at the strange, invisible barrier. Soon, Sheriff Duke Perkins and his deputy, Linda Esquivel, discover that the entire town has lost power. All communication is cut off, phones are dead, and there's no internet, which means even satellite signals are blocked. They realize just how bad the situation is when a small airplane flying overhead slams right into the invisible barrier. The crash confirms that the town isn't just blocked by a wall, but completely trapped inside a giant dome. The explosion from the plane crash causes everyone in town to start panicking. At the local radio station, a DJ named Phil and his assistant, Dodie, are confused because they seem to be the only station still on the air. As they try to contact anyone outside, Phil jokes that their ratings are about to go through the roof. Meanwhile, back at the edge of the dome, Barbie manages to stop a fire truck from crashing into the barrier. When the police show up to look at the invisible wall, they can't believe what they're seeing. The town's councilman, Big Jim Rennie, arrives, and he's just as confused as everyone else. They get news that all the roads leading out of town are blocked, which has caused a lot of car accidents. They know they need to make an announcement to warn everyone and prevent more crashes. In another part of town, a young guy named Junior Rennie is with Angie McAllister. It looks like they're having a romantic moment. Angie is Joe's older sister and a volunteer nurse. She's taken by surprise when Junior tells her he loves her. She tells him she doesn't feel the same way, which completely ruins the mood. They start to argue, and it ends when Angie slaps him and storms off, leaving Junior feeling both hurt and furious. Elsewhere, a family is getting ready to leave Chester's Mill. It's two moms, Carolyn and Alice, and their teenage daughter, Nori. They have no idea what's been happening in town. Julia Shumway, a local reporter, gets a weird phone call from a woman in town. The woman says a huge amount of propane, enough to fill 6 tanker trucks, was delivered to the town's supply this week. She thinks someone was stocking up on it for a secret reason. Julia is a little skeptical but agrees to look into it. Councilman Big Jim goes on the radio to declare a state of emergency. Carolyn's family hears his announcement but thinks it's just a weird ad. A second later, they have to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting the dome, right as another car crashes into it from the other side. The family is okay, but the shock causes their daughter, Nori, to have a seizure. While she's unconscious, she mumbles something about pink stars. They rush her to the hospital, which is already packed with people who got hurt in the chaos. Julia and Barbie are also at the hospital, where Julia finds out her husband has been lying to her about where he's been. Outside the hospital, Barbie and Angie are talking and sharing a cigarette. Junior sees them from a distance and gets incredibly jealous. His feelings for Angie have turned into a dangerous obsession, and seeing her with another guy makes him furious. By now, the US military has shown up and set up a perimeter around the outside of the dome. Scientists are there too, trying to figure out what the dome is, but they have no answers. A little later, Big Jim has a private meeting with Sheriff Perkins and brings up the propane. They talk in a secretive way, hinting that they did something to protect the town. It's obvious they both know more than they're telling people. Barbie had only planned on being in town for a day, so now he's stuck with nowhere to go. That night, Junior confronts him and tries to threaten him. Barbie has no idea why this guy is so hostile, but Julia steps in before things get ugly. Meanwhile, the town's teenagers try to act normal by throwing a party, ignoring the emergency. Joe is there and starts talking to another boy about the dome. Suddenly, Joe collapses and has a seizure, saying the exact same thing Nori did. Pink stars falling. His sister Angie is at home when Junior breaks in and kidnaps her. He takes her to an old fallout shelter that belongs to his dad, Big Jim. Junior tells her he knows what's happening and that his paranoid dad built the shelter to keep her safe. Back at her house, Julia offers to let Barbie stay for the night. Things get really dark when Barbie sees sees a photo of Julia's husband and realizes it's the same man he killed and buried that morning. While out on patrol, Sheriff Perkins' pacemaker suddenly stops working and explodes, killing him instantly. A flashback shows us that Barbie came to town to get money from Julia's husband. When the man refused to pay, they fought and Barbie accidentally shot him. Barbie knew no one would believe it was an accident, so he decided to bury the body. The next morning, Barbie can't find his dog tag necklace. He asks Julia if she's seen it. She says no, but Barbie is sure he must have lost it at the cabin where he killed her husband. Somewhere else, two deputies find the sheriff's body. Linda arrives and is heartbroken, holding her dead boss in her arms. Joe is hanging out with his new friend Ben, who helped him during his seizure. Ben asks him about the Pink Stars thing, but Joe doesn't remember saying anything. At the radio station, Dodie manages to use a special receiver to listen in on the military's communications outside the dome. She can hear what they're saying but can't talk back. From their conversations, she learns that the military is just as clueless about the dome as everyone inside. At the town diner, Linda interrupts Big Jim's breakfast to tell him the sheriff is dead. They rush over to see the town's mortician, Lester Coggins. Trapped in the bunker, Angie screams for help but no one can hear her. When Junior comes back, he chains her to a bed. He has a crazy idea that the dome only appeared because she rejected him, and he thinks she'll love him again once it's gone. It's clear he's mentally unstable. Lester, the mortician, acts shocked about the sheriff's death in front of Linda. But as soon as she leaves, his conversation with Big Jim reveals they were both in on the secret propane deal. They're actually relieved the sheriff is dead because now he can't rat them out. Later, Linda finds Big Jim snooping around the sheriff's office. He says he's looking for his friend's will, and she believes him. The truth is, he's looking for any papers about the propane deal that could link him and Lester to it. He thinks the papers are at the sheriff's house, so he sends Lester to go get them. Julia goes to the radio station and finds out they can spy on the military. They learn that the army tried digging under the dome, but it goes too deep. Julia broadcasts this information to the whole town, which makes everyone even more scared and desperate. Joe and Ben go to the edge of the dome to watch the scientists. They're spraying water at it, but it doesn't do much. Joe notices that the water seems to pass through as a fine mist, almost like the dome is some kind of filter. Later, Barbie goes back to the cabin to find his dog tags. He finds them, but Junior shows up right after, accusing him of sleeping with Angie. Barbie realizes Junior is completely delusional and tries to calm him down, but they end up fighting. Barbie, being an ex-military guy, easily wins. Meanwhile, Lester breaks into the dead sheriff's house and finds the papers about the propane. He tries to burn them, but the fire gets out of control and the whole house goes up in flames. A crowd gathers, but the fire truck is out of commission. The fire is so big that the heat is getting trapped under the dome, and people worry it could get hot enough to kill everyone. Barbie takes charge and gets people to form a bucket brigade. Linda hears Lester crying for help from inside the house and bravely runs in to pull him out. The fire keeps burning until Big Jim shows up with a tractor and smothers the flames with dirt. After the fire is out, a cop named Paul completely loses it. He yells that they're all doomed and will turn on each other. He fires his gun into the air, but the bullet bounces off the invisible dome and hits another cop, killing him on the spot. Paul is immediately arrested. That night, Joe and his friends are out skateboarding when Nori finds him. She needs to charge her phone, so he takes her to his house, which has a generator. At the police station, Linda puts Paul in a jail cell. A crowd forms outside, angry that the police can't control the situation. Big Jim gives a speech about staying united and manages to calm them down. A few minutes later, Paul fakes a heart attack. When Linda opens the cell to help him, he attacks her, locks her in the cell, and escapes. In the bunker, Angie tries to trick Junior into letting her go. She tells him about a secret tunnel from their childhood that might go under the dome. She's hoping he'll let her out to show him, but Junior decides to go check out the tunnel by himself. Big Jim finds Linda locked in the cell and lets her out. They realize Paul escaped with a rifle. Linda goes after him, thinking he's gone to his favorite hunting spot in the woods, while Jim gets a search party together. At the diner, Carolyn is worried because Nori stayed at Joe's house all night without asking. Big Jim comes in to recruit people for the search party and asks Barbie to join after seeing how he handled the fire. Out in the forest, it becomes clear that Barbie has military training as he easily tracks Paul. On his way to the tunnel, Junior runs into Julia. He acts super nervous when she asks him questions, which makes her suspicious, so she decides to follow him. The next morning, Ben shows up at Joe's house with two girls. He wants to use the generator to impress them, not realizing how precious its fuel is. Joe isn't happy about it, but lets them. Out in the woods, Paul ambushes the search party and shoots one of the men in the leg. While someone helps the injured man, Big Jim and Barbie chase after Paul. Paul starts shooting at them, pinning them down. Just as Paul is about to shoot Big Jim, Linda shows up and shoots Paul, killing him. Back at Joe's house, Carolyn arrives arrives and starts yelling at Nori for being so irresponsible. Just then, Joe and Nori accidentally touch hands. A weird energy sparks between them, and they both fall to the ground, having a seizure at the same time. Together, they start chanting, "The pink stars are falling in line." In the fallout shelter, Junior returns to Angie with some medical supplies. As she's cleaning up his bruised knuckles, she secretly steals a pair of scissors. In the final scene, Julia and Barbie are back at her house. After talking to the weirdly intense Junior, Julia is more suspicious of Barbie than ever. While Barbie is in the shower, she starts going through his bag, looking for answers. 3 days after the dome came down, the people of Chester's Mill are starting to lose it. Things get way worse when the soldiers stationed outside the dome suddenly pack up and leave. Seeing the military abandon them causes a full-on riot. The person who stops the chaos is, surprisingly, the town's mortician, Lester. He starts preaching verses from the Bible, telling everyone the dome is God's punishment and they just have to deal with it. His words calm people down for a little while, but with food and supplies running out, it's only a matter of time before things get crazy again. In the middle of all this tension, Linda suddenly collapses and is rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, Angie is still trapped in the fallout shelter. When Junior brings her food and clothes, she sees her chance. Using the scissors she hid earlier, she attacks him, but her attempt is useless. Junior easily dodges her. He doubles down on his creepy obsession, telling her she has to stay in the bunker until she learns to love him back. After he leaves, Angie starts banging on the shelter's pipes, trying to get someone's attention. This ends in disaster when a pipe breaks and the bunker starts flooding with water. The force of the water knocks her off the bed and she passes out. Julia keeps investigating what happened to her husband, Peter. She finds his car parked near DJ Phil's trailer and goes to ask him about it. Phil admits that Peter sold him the car right before the dome appeared. He also mentions that he's friends with Barbie, which proves that Barbie lied about being a total stranger in town. Their conversation gets cut short when Phil, just like Linda, suddenly faints. He's taken to the hospital, which is now dealing with a bunch of patients who all have the same symptoms. Joe and Nori are also there, and their moms, Alice and Carolyn, are worried sick after their seizure. Alice, being a doctor, starts helping the overwhelmed hospital staff. It looks like an epidemic is spreading through town, but the hospital is almost out of everything: masks, gloves, and medicine. Alice and the nurses work non-stop anyway. Julia confronts Barbie about his lie, but before he can explain, she gets sick and collapses, too. Alice thinks it might be meningitis, but she can't be sure without the right equipment. Big Jim gives his son, Junior, a gun and puts him on guard duty at the hospital. His job is to make sure no one who's sick gets out, to stop the disease from spreading. After that, Jim and Barbie head to the town pharmacy to get more medical supplies. When Julia wakes up, she demands to know how Barbie knows her husband. He finally tells her part of the truth. He works for a bookie, and he came to Chester's Mill to collect a lot of money that Peter lost in a bet. Julia is shocked, but Barbie still doesn't tell her the whole story about how their fight ended with him killing her husband. That night, Big Jim gets home and finds Lester waiting for him. Lester wants to give back his cut of the money they made from their illegal propane deal. We find out that they were secretly selling the town's propane to people on the outside who used it to make drugs. Now that he thinks God is punishing them, Lester wants a clean conscience. After he leaves, Jim hears a banging noise coming from the pipes in his house. He follows the sound to the bunker and is horrified to find Angie chained to the bed. Angie begs him to set her free, but Jim is terrified that his son will go to jail, so he refuses to help her and leaves her there. The next morning, Lester shows up at Jim's house again, saying he keeps hearing the word Moab. Jim just thinks his hearing aid is broken. Lester has completely lost his mind and believes he's a messenger for the dome. Elsewhere, Joe and Nori see a huge swarm of butterflies all over the outside of the dome. They figure out that the dome is messing with the magnetic field, which is attracting all the butterflies. As the butterflies fly away, a fleet of buses pulls up outside the dome, carrying the families of the people trapped inside. The government arranged a visitors' day. A huge crowd gathers at the barrier for emotional reunions with their loved ones, and Linda gets to see her fiancé. The dome has become a massive news story, and reporters are everywhere, filming the emotional scene. In the middle of the crowd, Lester is still preaching about Moab and God's punishment. Jim tries to shut him up, but Lester gives him a choice. Either Jim publicly confesses their crimes within 24 hours, or Lester will tell everyone himself. During the visits, Julia meets her sister-in-law, who gives her a letter from Peter. In the letter, he apologizes for everything and says Julia deserves better. Heartbroken, Julia just assumes he ran away because of his gambling debts. As the day ends, the military starts sending the visitors away. Barbie uses an old ID to talk to a soldier, who tells him they've been ordered to clear the area for good. This sets off alarm bells for Barbie. He connects it to what Lester was saying and realizes Moab isn't a word. It's an acronym for Mother of All Bombs. The military is going to fire a massive missile at the dome, probably because its magnetic field is causing problems for the outside world. The family visit was just a way for everyone to say goodbye. Barbie rushes to tell Julia, Linda, and Jim. Together, they scramble to warn the whole town, telling everyone to hide in an old, underground cement works tunnel. Believing they're all about to die, Jim finally goes and sets Angie free. She runs home to find Joe, but he's not there. Instead, Junior is in one of the rooms, holding a gun. He tells her about the bomb and gives her a tearful apology for everything he did. Seeing him so broken, and thinking these are their last moments, Angie comforts him. She lets him rest his head in her lap as they wait for the end. In the tunnel, Alice and Carolyn are freaking out because Nori is missing. It turns out Nori and Joe are still outside, desperately looking for Angie to warn her. At exactly 1:15, the missile is launched. Seeing it streak across the sky, Joe and Nori share what they think will be their last kiss. But when the missile hits the dome, it explodes without leaving a scratch. The town and everyone in it are completely unharmed. Big Jim runs to the barrier and sees that the missile has completely destroyed the area outside, but the dome is perfectly fine. Lester shows up next to him, again demanding that Jim confess. Since no one else is around, Jim grabs Lester and shoves his hearing aid against the dome. The device shorts out and explodes, killing Lester instantly. Soon, the rest of the town comes out of the tunnel to see the total destruction outside their perfect, invisible prison. Angie is still with Junior. She thinks he's about to lock her up again, so she attacks him and runs away. He chases her for a bit but loses her. Elsewhere, Alice, who is sick and needs insulin, starts seeing things and crashes her car into a water tank, destroying even more of their limited water supply. The radio station suddenly stops picking up outside signals. Instead, a weird, creepy song starts playing on a loop, and it's also coming through all the police walkie-talkies. Dodie builds a gadget and figures out that a powerful signal inside the dome is jamming everything else. She and Julia head out to find where it's coming from. The town's main water source is a lake, but when Linda and Barbie check it out, they find it's been contaminated by a gas pipeline that the dome sliced through. With their water supply now poisoned, people start to panic. A crowd forms at the convenience store, demanding water. The owner isn't taking money anymore because it's worthless. A riot is about to start when Linda shows up and gets things under control, but you can feel the tension in the air. Linda finds Junior looking for Angie and recruits him to help her manage the angry crowds. At the hospital, Alice is dying and is in desperate need of insulin. Nori decides she has to find some for her mom. Joe goes with her and they try to break into a house, but the owner catches them and says he already used his last dose. At the next house, they find a whole bunch of it in the fridge, but a little boy tells them the medicine is his. Nori can't bring herself to steal from a sick kid, but Joe grabs one dose for Alice. Angie hides out at Rose's diner and tells the owner what Junior did to her. Their talk is interrupted when two thugs come in to rob the place. When Rose tries to stop them, one of them hits her, and she dies. Angie fights back hard but gets knocked out. By now, a full-blown riot has broken out at the convenience store, with people looting and fighting in the streets. As Joe and Nori head back to the hospital, they run into Julia and Dodie. They all realize the jamming signal seems to be coming from Joe and Nori. The two teens tell them about the seizures they've been having ever since the dome appeared, which confirms they have some kind of connection to it. Barbie shows up at the diner and finds it being looted. He takes down the thief and saves the unconscious Angie. Outside, just as Linda is about to use her gun to stop the riot, it suddenly starts to pour rain. The rain stops the fighting, as everyone is just so relieved to finally have water. Barbie hands Angie over to Big Jim for safekeeping, not knowing what a monster Jim really is. Jim says he's taking her to the hospital, but he takes her to his house instead. Meanwhile, Julia, Dodie, Joe, and Nori are at the edge of the dome. When Joe and Nori touch the dome at the same time, the weird jamming signal stops, proving they have a special link to it. As it gets dark, Julia and Barbie meet up outside her house and share a hug, both exhausted from the day. Julia realizes she's starting to have feelings for the man who, without her knowing, killed her husband. Angie wakes up in Big Jim's house. He promises to let her go if she agrees to keep quiet about what Junior did, arguing that a girl like her will need a powerful man like him to protect her in the chaos. Before she can answer, Junior walks in the door. On the fourth day under the dome, the story opens with Julia and Barbie waking up in the same bed, so you know things have gotten serious between them. Their quiet morning is interrupted when their pregnant neighbor, Harriet, knocks on the door asking for some yogurt. Shortly after, Barbie heads off to the police station. A little while later, Harriet steps outside and sees what looks like her husband standing in the street. He was out of town when the dome came down, so she thinks it's finally gone. But when she reaches out to touch him, the vision disappears, and her hand slams right into the invisible dome. She gets hit with a huge jolt of electricity, and the shock is so bad that her water breaks, sending her into labor-waiting way too early. Meanwhile, over at Big Jim's house, Junior tries to go into Angie's room again, but this time Jim stops him. To keep his promise to protect her, Jim physically drags his own son out of the house and tells him to never come back. Junior is bitter and feels like his dad has always thought he was worthless, but he has no choice but to leave. Angie is still heartbroken over the death of Rose, who was like a mother to her. When she finds out Rose's body is still at the diner, she rushes over. Seeing her lying on the kitchen counter brings back a flood of memories. Ben shows up at the diner and helps Angie give Rose a proper burial. At the police station, Linda, Junior, and Barbie get ready to hunt down the guys who murdered Rose. These thugs have also robbed a bunch of stores and are becoming a real problem. Junior is still furious that they hurt Angie and wants to kill them on the spot, but Linda is firm and orders him not to use deadly force unless he absolutely has to. Next, we meet a grumpy old farmer named Ollie, who owns the town's only working well. He and Big Jim had a deal to trade his water for Jim's control of the town's propane, but Ollie backs out of the deal and says the propane now belongs to him. When Jim goes to the storage tanks, one of Ollie's armed men tells him to get lost. For now, Jim backs down, but you know he's not gonna let it go that easily. Elsewhere, Joe and Nori are trying to figure out their connection to the dome. Joe has a theory that the dome is built like an atom. If the edge is the outside shell, then the center, the nucleus, must be somewhere in the middle of town. The two of them, along with a dog, head out to find it. Their search leads them to a field, but as they get close to the dome's center, the dog gets spooked by something they can't see and runs off. Joe and Nori decide to keep looking on their own. At the same time, Julia is driving Harriet to the hospital. Their trip gets violently interrupted by the same thugs who killed Rose. While Harriet is screaming in pain from her contractions, the men try to steal their gas. Barbie shows up just in time to stop them, but the thugs get away. They decide to take Harriet to Joe's house, where Alice is. They figure the town's only real doctor is a better option than the hospital, which has no supplies. Alice and Carolyn get Harriet comfortable and start helping with the delivery. With no medical equipment, they have to rely completely on Alice's skill as a doctor. Joe and Nori finally find the center of the dome. There, they discover a smaller, second dome with a mysterious black egg inside it. When they touch the mini dome, they see a vision of Alice, which disappears as soon as they take their hands off. Nori gets a bad feeling that her mom is in danger and immediately runs back home. In another part of town, Ollie visits Big Jim to rub his victory in his face. He says he always felt like the town looked down on him compared to Jim, and now that he controls their water and propane, he's gonna prove he's the one in charge. Over at the thugs' hideout, Linda and Junior move in to arrest them. When the men fight back, Linda is forced to shoot one of them dead. The other guy begs for his life, but Junior shoots and kills him in cold blood. Back at the house, the delivery is a success. Harriet has a healthy baby girl and names her Alice in gratitude. But the happy moment is ruined when the real Alice has a massive heart attack and collapses. As night falls, Jim decides to take care of the propane problem himself. He waits until the guard at the storage facility is loading up his truck, takes aim, and shoots. The truck explodes, killing the guard instantly. Nori gets home just in time to find her mother dying. Joe is also there and sees his sister Angie for the first time in a week, relieved she's okay. With her last breaths, Alice tells her family it's nobody's fault before she passes away. Joe can only watch as a heartbroken Nori screams at the dome, begging it to bring her mother back. The next morning, Barbie digs a grave for Alice. Angie goes to the diner, determined to keep it open to honor Rose's memory. Since Big Jim owns the building, she goes to him to ask about taking over the diner. Later, Jim goes to Ollie's farm to try to make peace. The town is now running out of food and needs his help, but Ollie is enjoying his power and plans to starve everyone as revenge against Jim. Realizing talking won't work, Jim decides he has to use force. He gets Linda and Barbie and tells them about a law that lets the government take private property in a crisis. He plans to take over Ollie's farm, but he expects a fight. When they get to the farm, they're met by a group of armed men who have them outnumbered. As a warning, one of the men shoots a police officer in the leg. Then, in a shocking move, Junior walks over and joins Ollie's side, just to spite his father. Jim's group is forced to back down, totally embarrassed. At home, Joe tells Julia about the egg in the mini-dome, saying they need an adult's help. Julia is curious and goes with him. This time, they find the egg glowing with a pink light. When Julia tries to touch the egg, the mini-dome blocks her. But when she carefully touches the surface of the mini-dome, she sees a vision of Joe saying, "The monarch will be crowned." The vision stops the second she pulls her hand away, leaving her stunned. They go home home, planning to come back the next day. Elsewhere, Jim is determined to get a bigger group together and attack Ollie's farm to get the water back. Barbie thinks this is a terrible idea and doesn't want to start a civil war. He suggests another plan: use explosives to blow a hole in the underground pipe and redirect the water away from Ollie's farm. It's risky because it could destroy the well for good, but it's better than getting people killed. Jim dismisses the idea and tells his men to get ready to fight. Not giving up, Linda and Barbie decide to go ahead with the bombing plan in secret. Over at the farm, Ollie tries to mess with Junior's head by telling him that his mother didn't die in an accident. She killed herself. Junior is furious that his father hid this from him and believes Jim thought he was too weak to handle the truth. A little while later, Barbie sneaks onto Ollie's property to plant the explosives. Before he can finish, Jim and his crew show up and start a shootout. The chaos gives Barbie the cover he needs to set the bombs. The explosion works, and the water is successfully redirected. In all the confusion, Junior confronts his dad and knocks him out cold. With the water gone, Ollie's men give up and leave him. Ollie gives Junior a rifle and tells him to finish his father off. Junior demands to know why Jim lied about his mother's death. Jim confesses he did it to protect him from the pain and tells Junior he really does love him. Junior can't bring himself to kill his dad. When Ollie moves to do it himself, Junior shoots and kills Ollie, saving Jim's life. Sometime after, Jim and Barbie are in his office. Barbie is disgusted by the 5 people who died and realizes Jim only pretends to care about the town to hold onto his own power. The next morning, Julia takes Barbie to see the egg, but they're shocked to find that both the egg and the mini dome are gone. Barbie gets an urgent call from Linda. A man named Ted accidentally shot and killed someone while trying to scare off a junkie who was on his property. The junkie, who is going through withdrawal, confesses that he used to buy a drug called Rapture from Lester, the dead mortician. Linda and Barbie are shocked and go search Lester's house, where they find drug-making equipment. They realize propane is a key ingredient, and knowing the town had a huge stockpile, they start to suspect Big Jim was involved. At the same time, Junior finds Angie at the diner. She tells him to get lost, but he swears he isn't there to hurt her. He repeats his crazy idea that the dome is what's making her act weird. Angie thinks he's nuts, but then she suddenly collapses and has a seizure, just like Joe and Nori, chanting about pink stars falling. Then we meet Max, a sharp-witted businesswoman and the drug dealer who was supplying the propane for Jim's illegal operation. She came to Chester's mill to meet with him on the day the dome appeared and has been hiding out ever since. Seeing the town in chaos, she decides it's the perfect time to come out of hiding and take control for herself. Meanwhile, Junior drives Angie home. She's panicking in the back seat, terrified he's going to lock her up again, but she's surprised when he just drops her off at her house. He claims he had a feeling she was going to get sick because of the dome. Inside, she tells Julia, Joe, and Nori about her seizure. The group realizes their episodes must be connected and that the dome has chosen the 3 of them for some reason. Nori notices a butterfly tattoo on Angie's back that looks just like the butterflies that swarmed the dome, but nobody thinks too much of it. To make the town safer, Jim starts a voluntary gun buyback program, offering extra food to anyone who turns in their guns. He knows forcing people to give them up would never work. Desperate to find the egg, Joe and Nori take their dog and head out, hoping it can track the egg's scent. Angie goes to find Junior at the police station. She thinks his weird obsession with her being sick means he knows something about the dome. He takes her to his house and shows her a painting his mom made years ago. It's a painting of a dream she had. Junior standing on a hill while pink stars fall from the sky. He can't explain why he knew she was going to have a seizure, only that he had a powerful gut feeling. At the diner, the gun turn-in is happening. Ted, the guy from the shooting, is one of the only people who refuses to give up his gun. Barbie and Jim go to his house and find him about to kill himself, overcome with guilt about his wife dying in a car crash on the first day of the dome. Jim manages to talk him down and sends him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Linda is investigating the propane deal and watches security footage that shows the old sheriff making a deal with Max. She's forced to accept that the man she looked up to was a corrupt cop. Later, Max finds Barbie and kisses him. It turns out she's his old boss, and he can't stand her. She has dirt on both Barbie and Jim, which gives her power over them. When she gets Barbie alone, she confronts him about killing Peter, revealing that Peter called her in a panic right before he died. She threatens to tell Julia everything if Barbie ever crosses her. After a whole day of searching, Joe and Nori come home with nothing. They're completely shocked to find the egg just sitting in their barn. Angie tells them that Joe brought it home last night, but he has no memory of doing it. As the 3 of them get closer, they touch the small dome around the egg. They find that their hands fit perfectly into 3 handprints on its surface, like keys, but they realize they need a 4th hand to unlock whatever is inside. It's now been 9 days since the dome came down. Joe, Nori, and Angie have started sleeping in the barn to keep keep an eye on the mini-dome and the mysterious black egg inside. When they wake up, they find a caterpillar has magically appeared inside the mini-dome. They figure it's going to turn into a monarch butterfly, which they think has to be connected to the monarch prophecy they heard. When they touch the dome again, they see the clear outline of a fourth handprint and realize there must be another person who's been having seizures like them. While they're gone, Dodie sneaks into the barn and touches the mini-dome. She gets thrown back by a huge electric shock because the dome doesn't want her. She's not the fourth hand. The others find her passed out and rush her to the hospital. When Dodie wakes up, she doesn't remember what happened and just blames the generator for the shock. To keep their secret safe, Angie and the others don't tell her the truth. Later, Angie quietly asks a nurse if anyone else has been brought in for seizures. The nurse jokes that Junior had a seizure once back in high school. This comment hits Angie like a ton of bricks. Junior is the fourth chosen one. It all makes sense now, not just because of his seizure, but also because of the weird painting his mom made. In another part of town, Barbie goes to Big Jim to talk about Max, who is becoming a big problem. They both see her as a threat, so they form a shaky team to take her down. Jim starts by trying to find out where she's been hiding for the past week. While there at the town clerk's office, Max herself walks in. Using the secrets she knows to blackmail them, she boldly orders Jim to go get her alcohol and shampoo. With no other choice, Jim has to do what she says. A little later, Julia goes to the police station to see Barbie, but finds Linda instead. Linda has been searching the dead sheriff's office for clues about the propane deal and finds a key hidden in his hat. They figure out it opens a safe deposit box at the bank and head over there together, ready to find out the whole truth. Meanwhile, Junior catches a guy stealing salt from the convenience store. The terrified man confesses he was taking it to the cement factory to trade for other stuff. It turns out Max has set up a brutal, underground fight club and trading post at the factory, taking advantage of how desperate everyone is. She brings Barbie to the factory and tells him he's going to be the main event. Barbie refuses to fight, but she blackmails him by threatening to tell Julia the real story of how her husband died. Forced into the ring, he has to fight a guy who recently lost his family because of the dome. Most people bet on Barbie to win, but Max knows he'll lose the fight on purpose just to spite her, and she's right. He lets himself lose, and she wins a ton of supplies. This is the final straw for Barbie. He decides it's better to tell Julia the truth himself than to be Max's puppet. Max is furious that he defied her, especially since she has a thing for him. While Max is busy with her fight club, Jim finds records of a house she owns on the edge of town. He takes a boat to the secluded, fancy house and is greeted by a nice caretaker named Agatha, who says the house belongs to some guy named Oliver. While Jim waits, he snoops around and finds a picture of Agatha and Max together. Suddenly, Agatha is pointing a gun at him and reveals she's Max's mother. She tells him her bitter story about how the town kicked her out when she got pregnant at 16. Even though Max became super successful, Agatha never stopped hating the people of Chester's Mill. But Jim is cool as a cucumber. He notices her hand is shaking and correctly guesses she's never killed anyone. He easily takes her gun, ties her up, and forces her onto his boat. On the way back, Agatha trips and falls into the water. Jim hesitates for a second, then coldly decides not to save her and just watches her drown. At the same time, Linda and Julia get to the bank, which is now full of useless money. Inside the sheriff's safe deposit box, they find a letter. In it, he confesses that his son died from a drug overdose, which is why he was so obsessed with keeping drugs out of Chester's Mill. This led him, Lester, and Jim to make a deal with Max, the biggest drug supplier in the state. They gave her propane to make her drugs on the condition that she never sell them in their town. The sheriff knew what he was doing was illegal, but he thought he was protecting his community. Then, Julia opens her own husband's safe deposit box and finds out he took out a huge life insurance policy right before he disappeared. She realizes he wanted to get killed so she could have the money to pay off his debts. Stunned, she says she has to find Barbie and rushes home. Elsewhere, Angie tells Joe and Nori about Junior's mother's painting, convinced the vision of pink stars wasn't just a random dream. As they're talking, Junior shows up, feeling betrayed that Angie brought other people to his mom's private art studio. Joe, who now knows what Junior did to his sister, attacks him. Angie breaks up the fight, telling them they all need to work together to figure out what the dome wants. They convince a reluctant Junior to come to the barn to see if his hand is the fourth key. As it gets dark, Linda confronts Jim at his house about the propane deal. He's exhausted and promises to explain everything in the morning. Barbie gets home and finds Julia waiting for him. She tells him she knows he killed her husband. The fact that Peter's gun was missing, combined with the insurance policy, made it obvious that he had set up his own death. She doesn't blame Barbie because she understands it was self-defense. After seeing him risk his life for strangers, she knows he's not a bad person. Still, she asks him for a few days of space. space. Barbie is relieved that the truth is finally out and that she understands. Meanwhile, the group is at the barn, where the caterpillar has now turned into a chrysalis. The four of them touch the mini dome at the same time, and the egg inside starts to glow pink. A bunch of stars fly out and form constellations all around the barn, confirming that all four of the chosen people are finally together. They stay there all night, watching the star patterns now burned into the ceiling. But the dome still hasn't given them any answers. Joe suggests they go get Julia, since she was the one who got the prophecy about the monarch. The others agree, and he leaves to get her. When Angie and Junior are alone, he tries to get close to her again, thinking that because they're on a mission together, she's forgiven him for kidnapping her. Angie forcefully shoves him away, making it crystal clear she will never forgive him. Furious, Junior quits the group and storms off. The second he leaves, a massive, destructive storm suddenly appears out of nowhere. At the police station, Linda is grilling Jim about the propane, and he finally confesses his part in it. Linda knows she should arrest him, but with everything going on, she decides to wait until the crisis is over. At Julia's house, a knock on the door ends in tragedy. When she opens it, Max shoots her and runs off, a twisted way of getting revenge on Barbie for defying her. Barbie rushes to Julia's side, and just then, Joe arrives. He helps Barbie get Julia into a car, and they race to the hospital, fighting through the crazy storm. They get there just in time, but the nurse is overwhelmed, so Barbie has to perform surgery on Julia himself. The intense storm messes with the radio jam, and Dodie is able to pick up a military signal from outside. She overhears soldiers confirming that someone named Barbie is inside the dome and that he's the person they've been looking for. She realizes he's not just some random guy. Junior is home alone when Angie starts pounding on his door, begging him to come back to the barn. The storm has now turned into a weird vortex in the sky. Angie thinks the storm only happened because Junior left the group, and if he comes back, it will stop. He agrees, and as they walk to the barn, the storm instantly disappears, just like she said it would. At that exact same moment in the hospital, Barbie manages to bring Julia back to life after her heart had stopped. A stunned Joe connects the two events and realizes Barbie must be the monarch the dome was talking about. He runs back to the barn to tell the others. Later, Max goes back to her house and finds her mother's body washed up on the shore. Her sadness quickly turns into rage, and she swears she's going to kill Big Jim. Barbie meets Jim outside the hospital, and they both agree they have to get rid of Max before she strikes. They head to the cement factory, where Barbie messes with the generator just in case. Inside, Max and her goon ambush them. Max says she's going to kill them both for what happened to her mother, but she hesitates. The generator cuts out like Barbie planned, and in the darkness, Barbie and Jim overpower them. Barbie drags Max outside and leaves it up to Jim to decide what to do with her. As Barbie walks away, he hears two gunshots. Jim has executed both Max and her henchmen. Barbie is horrified by how brutal Jim is, but then Jim turns the gun on him. Just then, Linda arrives, and it looks like Barbie is the one holding the gun on Jim. She moves to arrest Barbie, but he hits her and runs off into the night. After that, Jim goes to the radio station, where Dodie tells him about the military broadcast she heard about Barbie. Jim sees his chance and broadcasts a message to the whole town, telling everyone that Barbie is a dangerous criminal. He accuses him of murdering Peter, Max, her assistant, and Agatha, and of trying to kill Julia. He puts out a town-wide manhunt, asking everyone to call the police if they see him. Finally, the four chosen ones, Joe, Nori, Angie, and Junior, gather at the edge of the dome. When they all touch the wall at the same time, they get the same terrifying vision. Big Jim is standing on the other side of the dome, watching them. Suddenly, he starts bleeding from a bunch of stab wounds that appear all over his body. When the four of them look down, they're each holding a bloody knife. The vision freaks them all out, especially Junior, who runs off to make sure his dad is okay. Once he's gone, Angie tells the others what she thinks the dome's real message is. It wants them to kill Big Jim. Jim knows his whole story will fall apart if Barbie gets to tell his side of things, so he works fast to make sure everyone sees Barbie as the town villain. He puts the whole town on high alert, saying there's a murderer on the loose, and gets a bunch of worried people to help him organize a massive house-to-house search. Even though Linda has her doubts about how he's handling things, Jim has totally manipulated her into thinking he's the good guy, just doing what's best for the town. Elsewhere, Julia is still in a coma, but the doctors say she's out of danger and should wake up in a few days. Meanwhile, at the radio station, Dodie is still listening to the military's secret channels. She overhears soldiers talking about Barbie and how they need to contact him. They also make a weird mention of a black egg, but don't explain what it is. That phrase makes Dodie remember something. She remembers getting zapped by an egg egg inside a mini dome. She checks her phone and finds a picture she took of the egg right before she passed out. She has no idea she's about to tell the actual bad guy everything, so she rushes to find Jim to show him what she found. In the barn, Angie, Joe, and Nori are watching the egg, trying to figure out the crazy vision they had of Jim being killed. Angie thinks they should just do it and kill him, but they're stuck. Since Junior is the fourth member of their team, they can't risk turning him against them. For now, they decide to just wait for the butterfly to hatch. Their watch party is interrupted when Carolyn bursts in and sees the glowing egg. Nori explains everything to her mom and begs her not to tell the police. Carolyn knows Jim can't be trusted, so she agrees to help them keep it a secret. Meanwhile, Junior finds his dad and gives him a hug, relieved he's okay after the vision. The whole thing has made him want to protect his dad even more. Jim uses this to his advantage and tells Junior to go guard Julia at the hospital to stop Barbie from hurting her again. He makes it clear that Junior needs to tell him the second she wakes up, so he can get to her before she reveals Barbie wasn't the one who shot her. Once again, Junior completely trusts his father. Later, Dodie finds Jim and tells him what she heard on the radio. They go to the station to listen to the recording. Jim not only learns about the egg, but also that it's in Joe's barn. Things take a dark turn when they hear the soldiers mention how Jim killed the pastor after the missile hit. Dodie is stunned. She nervously asks him just how many people he's actually killed. Realizing he's been caught, Jim confesses to everything. Then, he murders Dodie and sets the radio station on fire to destroy the evidence. When Linda finds out about the fire, she and Dodie's best friend, Phil, immediately blame Barbie, especially since Dodie was helping with the manhunt for him right before she died. At the same time, Barbie manages to find Angie and warns her that Julia's life is in danger. With everyone else out of the way, Julia is the only person who can expose Jim's lies when she wakes up. Barbie knows he has to get to her before Jim does. Angie agrees to help and sneaks him into the hospital through a back door. She then causes a distraction by pulling Junior aside, which gives Barbie just enough time to move the unconscious Julia into an ambulance. Junior figures out what's going on and calls Linda. Barbie tells Angie to drive the ambulance away while he stays behind to deal with the cops. The plan works. Angie escapes with Julia and uses a police radio she grabbed to listen in on their search. Linda confronts Barbie, and with a little help from Phil who knocks him out, Barbie is arrested. Elsewhere, Nori and Joe move the egg to their friend Ben's house, which the search party has already checked. They know the barn is too risky now that Jim is looking for it. Ben agrees to hide the egg in his room. A little while later, Jim and his crew show up at the barn, but Carolyn stands in their way. She argues that they can't legally search the place without the owner there, but Jim doesn't care about rules. He has his men grab her. When Joe and Nori arrive, they get grabbed too. But when Jim bursts into the barn, he's furious to find it empty. He demands the kids tell him where the egg is, but they pretend they don't know. So, he has them arrested and thrown in jail, planning to force the information out of them later. He needs to make sure the dome doesn't come down before he can get rid of everyone who knows the truth, like Julia and Barbie. In their jail cell, Joe and Nori try to come up with an escape plan. Jim comes in and threatens them again for the egg's location. Nori bravely calls him a coward, which makes him so mad that he steps into her cell. She tries to stab him with a hidden shiv, but he easily dodges it. He gives them one last chance to talk before storming out. Linda brings Barbie to the station and locks him in a cell, chaining his hands. A nervous Jim asks her if Julia was awake when she was taken, but Linda doesn't know. Over at Ben's house, the egg starts making a high-pitched, screaming noise that gives him a massive headache. He desperately wraps it in a bunch of blankets, hoping Joe comes back soon. In the next scene, Jim confronts Barbie in his cell and demands he confess to all the murders. He threatens the lives of Joe, Nori, and Julia, forcing a reluctant Barbie to agree. Because of this, Joe and Nori are set free. Jim tells Linda to tail them, guessing correctly that they'll lead her right to the mini-dome. Afterwards, Junior questions his dad, thinking it's weird that he's so obsessed with being the first to talk to Julia. Jim lies and says Barbie has already confessed to everything. This makes Junior believe his dad really is just trying to protect Julia, and his trust is restored. Somewhere else, Julia wakes up and immediately says that Max was the one who shot her. Realizing Jim is framing Barbie, she knows she has to get the truth out to everyone. Joe, Nori, and Carolyn get to Ben's house and hear the piercing sound from the egg. They see it glowing and shaking. Linda, who followed them, also sees the egg. Carolyn tries to reason with her, but Linda won't listen. Suddenly, the chrysalis opens and the monarch butterfly comes out, but it's weak and looks trapped. Outside the police station, a crowd gathers to hear Barbie's public confession. But when he's told to speak, he looks right at Jim and pleads not guilty. An enraged Jim drags him back inside. Back at Ben's house, the mini-dome starts to turn black, and and the butterfly collapses. At the exact same time, the giant dome over the town also turns black, plunging Chester's mill into darkness in the middle of the day. Linda, still not trusting the kids, touches the mini dome and gets violently thrown against a wall, which gives the others a chance to escape with the egg. Junior shows up at that exact moment and helps them get away. Meanwhile, Julia makes her way to the now empty police station and frees Barbie. Phil tries to stop them, but Barbie, even with his hands tied, is able to take him down. As they escape, Joe calls them on the police radio and tells them to meet at a secret place only Angie knows. Jim and Linda hear the message but have no idea where that is. A little while later, the four chosen ones, Barbie and Julia, all meet at the cement factory. Junior tries to attack Barbie, but is stopped when everyone reminds him that Barbie might be the monarch. Julia confirms to Junior that Barbie didn't shoot her, and the group tries to make him see what his father really is, but Junior is too blinded by love and trust to believe them. After their tense talk, the four chosen ones touch the mini-dome together. It dissolves into dust. The butterfly, which looked dead, comes back to life and starts flying around Barbie, making everyone think he really is the monarch. This is immediately followed by a violent earthquake. An instinct tells Julia to pick up the egg, and as soon as she does, the shaking stops. The butterfly then lands on the egg in her hands, revealing that Julia is the true monarch. Elsewhere, Jim plans to hold a public hanging for Barbie, hoping to cement his power and create a fake show of justice. He gets Phil to help him build gallows for the event. Looking for the kids, Linda goes to their house and ends up in the barn. She finds the constellations drawn on the ceiling and the words, "The pink stars are falling," written on the wall. She tells Jim about it, and he's shaken. His dead wife used to say that exact phrase all the time. To figure out what it means, he takes Linda to his wife's old art studio and shows her a painting she made years ago. It's a painting of the black egg with pink stars falling on it. It becomes terrifyingly clear that Jim's family has a deep, secret connection to the dome. Back at the factory, Junior demands they give the egg to the police, not understanding his dad would just destroy it. When they refuse, he pulls a gun. Barbie tackles him, giving the others enough time to escape with the egg, but he gets arrested in the process. Julia and the kids meet in the woods and ask the egg what to do. Suddenly, a ghost-like image of Nori's dead mom, Alice, appears. She explains she's not the real Alice, but a messenger, a way for them to communicate. Her message is simple. They must protect the egg no matter what, and they'll find out why later. In the police station, Jim taunts Barbie about his upcoming execution. Barbie shoots back that one day, the town will be doing the same thing to him. Meanwhile, Julia and the group hide out in the diner. They hear Jim on the radio, offering to trade Barbie's life for the egg. Later, Junior confronts his dad about the murders. Jim finally confesses but twists the story, making it sound like he only did those terrible things for the good of the town. A naive Junior once again sides with his father, but only if there are no more lies between them. Julia understands that the town's fate depends on the egg and accepts her role as the monarch. She takes on the responsibility herself, tells the others to go find a safe place to rest, and disappears into the night with the egg. A short while later, the entire town is gathered for the execution. Barbie stands on the gallows with a noose around his neck. At that very moment, Julia is on the lake in a small boat. She drops the egg into the water. It explodes in a shower of pink sparks that fly high into the sky, creating an amazing display of falling pink stars. The entire town, including everyone at the gallows, just stares in awe. The incredible sight stops the execution just seconds before the lever is pulled. The glowing pink energy spreads across the sky, turning the entire dome a brilliant, blinding white. So, that's a wrap for Season 1. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want Season 2 and 3, drop a comment and let me know, and hype up the video to show your support.